Hello, we're going to be focusing in on intrinsic motivation. I know in the previous screencast I spoke strongly about, or maybe not so strongly, but I spoke about whether or not does intrinsic motivation exist. I want to go back to or rely on Edward Deci and Richard Ryan's work on self-determination theory to give an understanding about intrinsic motivation. So according to Deci and Ryan, there are three conditions that lead to a person to be intrinsically motivated. They involved providing opportunities for autonomy, providing opportunities for students to feel or for people to feel a sense of belonging, and providing students an opportunity to be competent. These are the ABCs of intrinsic motivation according to Deci and Ryan. It is important to remember that we cannot make students be intrinsically motivated, and we're not really sure if we can be completely intrinsically motivated. But if we could make someone feel intrinsically motivated, we would be using extrinsic motivation, or extrinsic or external forms of regulation. Instead, what we want to do with intrinsic motivation is we want to create an environment where a person is more likely to be intrinsically motivated. And the things that would make someone more likely to be intrinsically motivated are feelings of autonomy, belonging, and competency. So I'm going to talk about those three things. Autonomy. You want to help students feel as if they have autonomy over their own lives. In other words, we are not making them do things all the time. We're not regulating their behavior all the time. Students need the opportunity to exercise their free will. This does not mean that in the classroom as teachers, we give them a choice to do the work or not, or we give them a choice to do the homework or not. Instead, what this suggests is that we give them smart choices. As a parent, for example, I told my sons that they had to eat vegetables, so I'm regulating their behavior. But I made two types of vegetables, and I gave them the autonomy to choose which vegetable they preferred. They could not choose none of the vegetables. They had to choose at least one. So they had smart choices. The choices were within parameters, within boundaries. So as a teacher, you can provide a sense of autonomy by giving or allowing students opportunities to make choices or smart choices. So you can give them a choice to solve odd problems or even problems. You can give them a choice to take a multiple choice test or a short answer or essay test. You can give them a choice when doing a project whether or not they want to write an essay, give an oral presentation with PowerPoint, or do an interpretive dance. You are just providing smart choices, choices within parameters. Another thing that you want to do in terms of autonomy is you want to make lessons relevant. So what I mean by relevant is that you want to make connections to the student in some way. The content, show how the content relates to the student. You can reference culture, popular culture, by saying, you know what you know about Pokemon Go? Well, this is how science can explain it or relates to it. You're teaching history, you can talk about Alexander Hamilton. The idea, in order to help students feel a sense of autonomy, is to make the lesson relevant, sort of like the integrated regulation. Let them know the purpose, the utility, or the relationship of the content to their lives. So there are two ways in which to help build a sense of autonomy. One is through choices, providing smart choices. The other is helping students see the relevance of the content that you're teaching. The second thing is we want to build a sense of belonging. We have learned from different screencasts how important belonging or social group is to the well-being of an individual. It is foundational to our existence. Likewise, it plays an important role in our ability to learn. Students who feel as if they belong to a group will be more engaged to learn what that group is learning or doing. Students who feel as if they don't belong will not attempt to learn what the group is learning. Why should they? As we know about peers, peers strongly identify and relate to their peer group. So creating a sense of belonging with their peers is a big, important matter or thing to do. But we, as adults, we're not all that square, not yet, and we play an important role. So how can we create a sense of belonging in the classroom for teens? One is greet students at the door, or say goodbye to them and let them know how much you appreciate to them as they leave. Fiercely foster a safe space in the classroom. As we know, peers are important and they don't want to feel demeaned or embarrassed by their peers. So be careful about how you create that safe space. Allow mistakes to take place in the classroom. Allow students to make mistakes and let them know that it's okay to make mistakes, that it's part of learning. But also show that you can make mistakes as well. And the other thing is give them space in the classroom. Let them have a space where they can own it. So I do that by allowing you all to have 5 minutes to share about your lives. You get to share what it is that you know, what you really like, and that gives you hopefully a sense of belonging. And I enjoy that. I definitely enjoy that opportunity, that time. All right, so the next thing is competency. Competency is when people are engaged in an activity if they feel like they can, or people are engaged in an activity if they feel like they can be competent. I wrote competent and not successful. You do not need to be successful to be competent. You just need to feel like you can be successful on a task in order to do the behavior. Competency is the feeling of being a feeling of being about to be, sorry, I'm tripping on that. Competency is the feeling of being like you can do the task. You can be successful on completing the task. So how do we help students feel a sense of competency? Provide scaffolds. So scaffolds are those supports, those learning supports in the classroom. They could be sentence frames, it could be extra time in the class, it could be peer support if you think that the support is actually going to help a student be successful. Job aids for an activity, so if you're going to do a project and you get stumped, here are some things to help you solve it. Modeling how you would have solve it. Strategic questions, asking those questions that might help the student narrow in on the thing that they need to do. Remove distractions in the classroom. So if you're having them do a test, it's probably not a good idea to play music or have a video showing going on at the same time. You want to remove distractions. Deliberate practice is also an opportunity to help students feel competent on a task. Give them plenty of practice. So if they have an exam that they need to do, give them a practice exam that they can do so that they can practice it beforehand and give them feedback. And that is probably the essential one, is feedback, providing feedback from the teacher to a student is going to help the student know if they didn't do well, or even if they did do well, knowing why they did well so that that can help them on future assignments. So, what can you do? You can set up a classroom and your lessons that allow for opportunities for autonomy, for a sense of belonging, and a sense of competency. And we'll talk about these in class. Thank you for listening.